Hey guys, hope you guys are doing well. I'm coming to you today with another support hack. It's something that I just experienced, so I'm actually going to read through the thread with you, the email thread, so you guys can kind of get a feel for how I communicate with support when there are issues. One of the things that I always keep in mind when dealing with support, and this really goes for anything, not just necessarily Turo, is that the person that you're dealing with on the other end, they are just a middleman, right? So they're following training that they were given, guidance that they were given, rules that they're supposed to follow because they have bosses above them. So I really work hard at being super nice to them, being pleasant with them, because especially in the support sector of things, I make the assumption that they deal with people every day who are either not so friendly, or they're upset, or they're blaming them for not taking care of an issue. And that becomes very tough to deal with over time for the support agent. So being nice and kind to somebody and really talking to them in a pleasant manner, I truly believe will help you out, and it gets you far, and it just gets you that much closer to you accomplishing your goal. So I had an issue with support, and then I used something that I learned early on in my Turo days, at least 4 or 5 years ago. I learned that they use this one tool for photo verification. So I used that knowledge that I had to help me in this case, and it actually worked. So let's get into it. Basically what happened was I had a Turo Go trip. This is something I talked about on my YouTube channel, but at that time when I made the YouTube channel video, the resolution was not in my favor. But this morning I got an email where the resolution is now in my favor. So here is the update on the membership site. Okay, so I had a car that went out on a Turo Go rental. I completely forgot to check it in, just absolute human error. And it's not that I didn't take the photos, I did. I just forgot to upload them and go through the check-in process. This very rarely happens to me, but unfortunately it did in this situation. This person drove almost 500 miles over their allotment for the trip, and it was quite a large trip. I got a very high day rate on it. I think it was like $170 a day, and that person rented for, I think it was like 7 or 10 days. So it was a big booking, and they did have a lot of miles for the trip, but they went over it anyways. So when I went to go do the reimbursements for the trip is when I realized that I didn't have my photos uploaded, or actually upon checkout, and I was like, shit, I can't believe I did that, right? Thank God the car didn't come back with any damage. But because the amount for the reimbursement was over $500, I couldn't even request for the reimbursement through the actual reservation tool. Above $500, you have to contact support, and then they'll evaluate it and then issue you your earnings. So then I did. I submitted it to support anyways, just to see if, I could get it to fly, because when I checked out the car right before that, I did upload the pre-trip photos, so just so that they'd be under the trip. So I contacted support because there was a smoking fee as well, let them know what the issue was, and to see what they could do. I'm going to kind of go through my support thread with the correspondence rather that I had, so that you guys can kind of get a feel for how I communicate. So basically I emailed them and I said I would like to claim for the $250 and the smoking fee, and then plus the mileage was over $500. And then I said all the photos are uploaded to the trip. So it got back to me, and this is something that this is somebody who I've never worked with, or at least a name that I didn't recognize with support. Over the years, you can sometimes start recognizing names, but it does look like they have a lot of turnover in their support, because I see a lot of names that pop up. It says, we resolved your reimbursement request with the guest in your favor. However, we had to adjust your reimbursement amount because there are no pre-trip photos and no check-in mileage was entered. We've issued you a reimbursement for $250, blah, blah, blah. That was for the smoking. So again, remember, like I said, if you ask specifically for that $250, you will get it. Otherwise, by default, they'll give you $150, and if it's minor, they'll even give you $50. So you have to very specifically ask for that. So in this case, I got the $250. So then let me read you guys my response. I put, thanks so much for your help on this. I realized that I totally forgot to upload those pre-trip photos within the 24-hour window. 100% my fault. Still figuring out the ins and outs of Turo Go. Could you help me out with understanding the pre-trip photos part for the Turo Go trip? Because I had read on the FAQ that a host wasn't required to take pre-trip photos specifically for Turo Go trips. Is this not the case? Thanks so much in advance, Sima. So basically, I just wanted to kind of paint the picture of that. I wasn't exactly clear on what the process was because, and this is actually true, I'm really not so clear because it is very confusing. When you do go read the FAQs page for Turo about Turo Go, it does say that a host is not required to take those pre-trip photos. So then I got to thinking to myself, well, then what happens when you have mileage overage or gas isn't replaced? How do you claim for that stuff if you are not required to take pre-trip photos? So that's basically, I wanted to get to the point where the support agent felt like, I'm a host and I need help, and I want to put them in the position to where they feel good about helping me. So that is sort of that, I don't know what you would call that tactic. I'm sure that there's a name for it. I forget what it's called. I've read about it before. But you always want to make the person on the other end feel empowered, that they have something that they could help you with, which makes them feel good. And it was really a genuine question. Okay, let's see. So what did he respond here? He said, hi, Simon, thank you so much for reaching out. As a Turo Go host, you are not required to upload pre-trip photos. Whenever you are checking into the trip, however, there is a screen that prompts you to enter the starting mileage. Here's more about hosting with Turo Go and reimbursement requirements. If you have any questions about the policies after review, please feel free to reach out to me. And then he linked the pages with more information, which is really funny because in the past, I've had an instance with mileage where I actually have an email where the support agent said, when you check into a trip and Turo Go automatically pulls that information from the car with what your gas gauge is and what your mileage is, that agent told me that that's not sufficient for reimbursement requests. So it's kind of interesting that they don't always have the same information. And then let's go on to my response. I put, hi again. Okay, I see what you're saying. So when the mileage/fuel gets automatically populated from the car, is that sufficient evidence for pre-trip documentation in case the gas isn't replaced or there's excess mileage without having a photo of the dash? And again, the reason why I asked that is because in the past I had a support agent that told me otherwise. In this case, would there be any way that you guys would be able to validate my pre-trip photos through the Jeffries metadata reader? I remember support used to use that. Again, totally my fault for getting to upload the photos in time, but if there's any way to recoup my earnings from the excess mileage overage since it was pretty significant, I would so appreciate any support that you can provide. Thank you again, and then I put my name. So back in the day when I first started on Turo, and I want to say it was even when Relay Rides was around, they would use this tool called Jeffries metadata reader. So basically you can process a photo and they can pull up the real tags on that photo when it was actually taken. There's a date and a timestamp to it. And that's something that is very difficult to alter, so you can't really like commit any kind of fraud on that. So they use that tool to do that. I haven't in many years. I've never heard support bring up Jeffries metadata reader anymore. So my assumption is that they don't really do that anymore, and they solely go off of when you check in or check out of a trip and what it shows on their end on their system, which is why they've become so strict about that time frame. So I threw that out there because I just wanted to see if that was something that they could still use. And I also wanted to show that, you know, I've been a host on the platform for a long time and that this was a genuine mistake. So after I sent that email, days went by, actually 6 days to be exact went by, and I never heard back from the support agent, which happens sometimes. And so then I just sent an email saying, hi again, just wanted to follow up on the previous email. Thanks again so much. At that point, I figured it was a lost cause and, you know, they probably weren't going to do anything about it because I don't think that they read that, they use that metadata tool anymore. And I think that they just don't honor or they don't utilize kind of that process anymore. However, I did get a response from the agent a day later saying, "So sorry for the late reply. I've been out of office. Can you please send in the pre-trip photos for review?" And I was like, yes, that means I got them to play ball. And I'm so happy because now I have a chance at getting that reimbursement amount. And then, so then I emailed him back, and I was very thorough in my response. And the thing is, you always want to make their job easier, right? If they are going out on a limb to help you, then you want to make it easier on their end. So I thanked him, and then I said, because I was pulling this picture from my Android phone, and I know in the past when I've pulled a photo from my Android phone, sent it to my iPhone, and then emailed it in, the metadata would not populate, the original metadata. So I know that from past knowledge. So I told him, I was like, look, I'm posting the photos, I'm attaching them here in the email, but they are being transferred from my Android. So if you run into any issues with the metadata, the original photos are uploaded to the trip photos, which you can definitely pull the original metadata from that. And I just know this from my experience, and sometimes you never know if a support agent knows that information or not. So anything that you can do to be helpful will really work in your favor. And then this morning I got an email that said approved reimbursement request for $628 for the mileage overage on that trip. So I was really happy. So the lesson being this: one is kindness goes a long way, and putting someone in the position to where they want to help you really works in your favor, because it makes them feel empowered, like, you know, they're really playing their support role and they're getting to support you. And as human beings, people like that. There is that psychological element to that where that makes people feel good. And then just being thorough and providing any support that you can to make their lives easier will also help and work in your favor. And I've had cases like this in the past where my reimbursement requests have not been approved. So again, it is so discretionary, as are almost all things in business. So if you're persistent and you're consistent in your approach, you can really get things to work out in your favor. And that is how I always approach support. And this is an agent, again, that I've never worked with. So it's not like he's familiar with me or knows who I am or knows that, you know, they've dealt with me in the past, because there are some agents that you can start building relationships with if you work with them often. And sometimes that does happen, but I think that they experience quite a bit of turnover. So that's not a method that you can really rely on. So just being nice and, you know, kind of using your experience and your knowledge to work in your favor really makes a big difference. So if you guys ever need to use that as a tool, here is one of my support hacks. Let me know if any of you guys have ever had to do something like that. If you can comment on the Facebook page, that would be awesome. Or if any of you guys are familiar with the fact that they used to use Jeffrey's metadata reader, I would be interested in knowing how many people know about that, because that was from so many years back that they used to use this strategy. All right, you guys, so if you ever find yourself in a predicament, I hope that you find this little support hack that I've discovered helpful for you guys. Take care, and I'll talk to you guys soon.